Hey everyone, welcome back to She Births Podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Wright, and today's guest is Jamie. Hi, Jamie.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being a guest today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So, can you tell our listeners what inspired you to write the book centered around mental health and resilience?
Both personal and professional experience. I have experienced childhood trauma and then grew up with suffering from depression. And so I have personal reasons for going into the field and especially writing these books. I wanted to share everything I've learned, through experience, through education. I just wanted to help other people get a better grasp and also learn to move forward and learn to heal.
hmm Yeah. So, how has your background in trauma psychology shaped your writing style?
Well, one way is that trauma definitely affects people's outlook. It affects even their cognitive or learning ability, even with memory. And so, one of the ways I wrote this series of books is that I tried to make it short paragraphs.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to break it into sections that were informational. So here's a little bit, here's anxiety. What is it? What is it not? You know, and then list out very practical steps that people, you could literally just take a checkbox and say, okay, here's what I want to work on or what I need to work on. So let's just follow the steps.
Oh, okay. So this is a question outside of the questions that I have list for you.
Mhm.
So in your books, do you like incorporate like some of your personal life, like your past trauma into your books? Like do you tell some of your story in the books?
No, not in this series. I originally had thought about this series because mostly when I was doing my graduate work,
Mhm.
there would be certain classes where we would focus in on certain issues, specific
Mhm.
issues like PTSD.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to take what I had learned that was very current, but yet at the same time, what I knew was applicable and put those into these books for individuals to be able to, you know, pick what they needed.
Mhm.
Um, I generally do, like when I'm coaching or when I'm speaking, talk about my personal experience and what I grew up with and how it affected me and how I've healed and grown from that. This series though is not. It's pretty reader directed.
Gotcha. So what do you hope the readers take away from your books?
Definitely a better understanding of the conditions, whichever mental health issue that they're dealing with, or maybe that a family or friend is dealing with, and along with very practical strategies for managing symptoms and building a long-term path for healing.
Mhm. Mhm. So how do you balance scientific insight with accessibility in your writing?
So again, with these, I really wanted to make it reader centric, reader specific. So I tried to give enough scientific information and background so that a person could get a good grasp on what they're dealing with, but
Mhm.
yet not stray too far into just like, giving data and studies and so it's not a textbook,
Mhm. Yeah.
but there's enough information to give you a very good understanding, some history and current events, but
Mhm.
then lead, like I said, directly into very practical, useful information.
Mhm. So which book has been the most personal or challenging for you to write?
Probably the one on well, the one on depression is probably the most personal because that's what I dealt with pretty much my entire life and what I
Mhm.
struggled with the most. The one on ADHD has been one of the most interesting because that's something that I have had to learn about and deal with later in life.
Mhm.
So That one was kind of my pet.
Oh, okay. So do you have a personal favorite among your publications?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Probably the ADHD. Yeah, because I've enjoyed learning about it. Um, in my graduate work, I've enjoyed learning about it for myself,
Mhm,
and it's one of those where there's uh, a lot more information, a lot more understanding that
mhm.
we still need. So
Yeah.
it's a growing concept and idea. So it's just very, very interesting.
Yeah, it's good that we're talking about this now because my mom, because I have ADHD. My mom doesn't understand what ADHD is. She's like, I don't
Mm.
understand why you're doing this, and I'm like, because my brain is going at 1,000 miles an hour, and it's just going everywhere. And
Yeah, it's the
can I get
gerbils, it's the little gerbils on the wheel in your head.
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes,
And that was another, you know, I guess positive of these books was that, like I said, there's enough teachable moments in them so that a family member or friend, spouse,
mhm,
whatever, parent could pick one of these up and say, I'm going to read this. And it gives you a good understanding of what your loved ones are dealing with, which I
yes.
think we'll kind of get to in a few minutes.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to read these and give them to my mom so she can read them.
Mhm.
So, so what kind of feedback have you received from readers so far?
Very positive feedback. I've heard that they've helped them to know things about a specific mental illness that they didn't know before,
Mhm,
especially in terms of like PTSD, because, you know, historically, PTSD comes from a study of war veterans. And so even though it has progressed, miles and miles since then, there's still a lot that publicly isn't known.
mhm.
And so people have read it and been like, "Oh yeah, I have those symptoms, but I didn't know I could have those symptoms, but not have full blown PTSD." And
Yes.
so a lot of that.
Yeah. So how do you approach like writing about such emotionally heavy topics with hope?
Um, just having my own personal experience and growing and going down the path of healing and knowing that even when it doesn't feel like it, there is hope, there
Mhm.
is healing and growth, and having the personal understanding that it's a journey and it
Mhm.
takes time. And so it's easier for me to, even on the clinical side of, discussing an issue, it's easier for me because I understand what needs to be said. Um,
Yes.
so yeah, it just makes it, it makes it more of a passion project, not just a, term paper type kind of thing.
Hmm. Okay. So what advice would you give inspiring authors in the mental health genre?
In the mental health genre, I would say be yourself and write what you know. So if your book, like you mentioned, did mine have my personal journey? If
Mhm.
if your book, if that's what you're writing, is your personal story, how you went through certain things, how you survived, how you've grown and healed, people want and need to hear that. So
Mhm.
just be honest and just write that. If you're coming more from an educational side, like this series of mine, it that's the way I wrote it, was to help other people,
Mhm.
to understand and to grow. So yeah, just be yourself, write what is genuinely you,
Mhm.
and then after that you'll find your audience.
Yeah. So what misconceptions about depression do you see most often in?
The most common is that depression, clinical depression, is not the same thing as grief. It
Mhm.
is not the same thing as sadness. Every
Yes.
single human being on the planet is sad sometimes.
Mhm.
Every single person on the planet can experience grief.
Mhm.
Most, I would say everybody does, but at least it's possible. It's a common thing. not everybody is going to experience clinical depression.
Mhm.
So they are all different.
Yes. And I'm happy we're talking about this too, because I was diagnosed with severe clinical depression. I was like, so what does that mean? And they was like, that means it's severe. And I'm like, so can you explain that? Like,
Yeah.
what's wrong?
Yep.
But my therapist explained to me that it's like you go like really low, like
Hmm.
really, really, really low to where the suicidal thoughts come in is
Yeah.
when that happens.
Yeah. And one of the other extinctions, I got dinosaurs on the brain, I guess. One of the other distinctions is time period.
Mhm,
So if you're sad,
mhm,
one, sadness and grief both have a very identifiable cause.
mhm.
If
Yeah.
you're grieving, it's because someone or something has been lost to you.
Mhm.
If you're sad, it's because something happened to
Yep.
you and it either happened directly to you or you experienced it. There's time to that.
Mhm.
Now grief is its own different time frame, but there's a reason for it.
Mhm.
With clinical depression, you can be sad and depressed and down and low, and
Mhm.
there's not really any reason for it. It's
Mhm.
all, it's all in your body and in your
Yeah.
mind. So
Yeah.
there is no external cause for it. And
Mhm.
and that's one of the big differences.
Yeah, and I even read that things that you eat can also affect your like the brain waves. And I was like, really? Because I eat
Hmm.
fast food a lot. So
Hmm.
maybe that's why.
Yep. Yeah, we're going to talk about that too.
Oh
So,
man. So how important is early recognition in managing depression?
it can be important. With young children, it's pretty difficult, and most clinical depression doesn't doesn't really kick in until there's some hormonal change.
Mhm.
So it's possible that a young child can have, major depressive disorder,
Mhm.
clinical depression, but it's more likely that it starts in the teenage years, maybe early teens and stuff.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's when it's important. And that's when you really have to, if you're a parent, you have to, know your child. You have to be very observant and just, understand that, like I said earlier, sadness can come and go,
Mhm.
but this is not going to go. It's going to stay.
Yes. Yes. So what role does self-awareness play in the healing process?
Oh man, it's probably the greatest step that you can take in healing is to become a student of yourself.
Yes.
And the more you become a student of yourself, the greater your ability to become self aware. And that plays a big part because at some point in your journey, you kind of learn this distinction between this is an issue that I'm dealing with.
Mhm.
It's a part of me, but it's not the whole me.
Right.
And there's a whole rest of me that is that can be positive, that can enjoy life,
Mhm.
that can grow and heal.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So could you walk us through a favorite strategy from the book without giving it away? Like without like spoiling it.
Yeah, yeah. I would say the probably a favorite strategy is learning the gut brain connection.
Mhm.
And kind of what you mentioned earlier is that there is a direct connection between our gut, our
Mhm.
intestinal tract. It has a microbiome,
Mhm.
and that means that it has its own good bacteria and bad bacteria.
Mhm.
And if you don't have enough good bacteria, you're going to have effects, negative effects. If you have too much bad bacteria, you're going to have negative effects.
Mhm.
And your gut actually produces serotonin.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have heard about serotonin and it's, makes you happy and blah, blah, blah. And we think that's just in the mind, in the brain, but
Mhm.
it's not. So, yeah, learning about that is probably one of the most, uh, I won't say important. It's hard to say which is the most important, but it's
Mhm.
one of the most interesting subjects in the book is
Yeah.
learning that connection and that distinction.
Oh, okay. So why is it important to include sections in lifestyle changes?
So lifestyle changes are the things that are going to learn to lean are going to lead to are going to lead to long-term healing and growth.
Mhm.
Um, and so lifestyle changes, we're talking about exercise and diet, but lifestyle changes are like planting a garden. You
Mhm.
plant the seeds and then they grow. Well,
Mhm.
over time, that seed just continues to grow and grow as a plant. And then later, you start getting fruit from it. So
Mm.
that's how important the lifestyle changes are. That's what's going to build your long-term health and happiness.
Yeah. So how can someone support a loved one with clinical depression?
Um, Number one, learn everything you can about it.
Mhm.
Everything you can about it. I've seen, and this is probably a good thing from media, from like TV shows and movies and stuff.
Mhm.
But there's been a lot of focus on cancer patients. So
Mhm.
when someone gets cancer, their loved one, their spouse, their family, they really get
Oh, your
into it,
cat.
and yes, sorry, give me 1 second. I'm gonna
Is your
see.
cat just crying?
Yes, give me 1 second. I am so sorry. Give
You're
me one
good.
second. All right, we're back.
Okay.
Anytime you do something live,
I
it's something
know.
always happens. Always happens.
My dog does it.
Yes. Cats. I love cats, but they're a trip. Um, so learn everything you can about it. This is the best way to help them because the more you understand that, like you mentioned earlier, well, why are they being like this or why are they being like
Yeah.
that? Oh, well, it's because of this.
Mhm.
Um, and the second thing is don't wait for them to come to you,
Yeah.
especially with depression. Um, it's hard enough. You already have this mindset, you already have this belief
Mhm.
that you might be unwanted or unloved, or maybe even that like you feel like a burden to other people in your life. So
Yeah.
you're probably not going to go hunt people down and say, hey, let me tell you, I'm feeling depressed.
Yeah.
Um, Hopefully you can learn to,
Mhm.
but if you're the loved one of someone with depression, go to them. Go
Yeah.
ask them every once in a while. If you notice something's off, just ask them, say, hey, how you feeling?
Mhm.
You know, I know that you struggle with this and I'm here for you. What's
Mhm.
going on right now?
Yeah.
Can I just sit with you? So that's the
Yeah.
top two things.
Yeah, and as we're speaking about like mental health, men like mental health is this month,
Hmm.
and like spreading awareness to men about their mental health. A lot of men don't like speaking with like their spouse about their mental health, like what's
Hmm.
going on with them or their girlfriends or their friends, because they don't want to be seen as weak or soft.
Yep.
And like I was trying to explain to this guy, because I had made a post about it, and I was trying to explain to this guy that there are some people out there that will listen to you. Like
Hmm.
some girls do see it as soft and weak men, but there's
Right.
some women out there that are like, oh well, tell me, let me know.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially, yeah. And you're absolutely right. As men, we are raised,
Mhm.
we are taught from early early childhood, I mean almost like toddler age, that don't cry, suck it up, be a man, be
Yeah.
tough, you got to be strong, you know um, and so that that sinks in and we carry that into adulthood to where most men you might see walking around, they might be doing their job, they might be they might look okay. And if you
Mhm.
ask them, everything all right? Yeah, I'm fine. I'm good. The odds are
Yep.
that they're probably not. They're probably carrying, you know, 10 times more stress, grief, guilt,
Mhm.
worry, any of those things than you could ever imagine because we're taught to keep it in, to suck it up.
Yeah.
And so going to someone, especially if you know that they have, some of these struggles with
Mhm.
mental health issues, go to them and say, "Hey, look, I'm here for you, and
Yeah.
I what's on your mind? Tell me.
Yeah.
I'm just going to listen. I'm not
Yeah.
going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to give you advice. I'm just here to listen."
Yes.
And it may take some prodding, but you eventually, if they trust you, they can open up and say, "Yeah,
Yeah.
you could be specific. Okay, well, what is it? What's going on at home? What's going on with your family? What's going on at work?"
Mhm.
So yeah, go to them
Yeah.
and ask.
Oh yeah, because I also read that men's suicide rate is higher than women's suicide rate, and a
Absolutely.
lot of people don't know that. They're like, "No, it's not," and I'm like, "Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Look it up."
it is. 80% of all suicides are men.
Yeah, yeah,
So
and
80%.
when
So that's 4 to 1. So
okay,
and one man dies from suicide every 11 minutes.
mhm,
So since we've been talking,
mhm,
one man has committed suicide.
yep, yep,
Yeah, that's a
and
very
and when I
sad reality.
and when I was in group therapy, there was more men in group therapy than there was women. There was like 3 women, the rest were men, and I'm like,
Yes.
this is the first time that I've been in a group therapy where I've seen that many men express their feelings
Mm,
in a group setting. And I'm like, wow, I did not know men felt this way like this.
yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting, and some of these are generalities, but
Mhm,
they're they're true.
mhm,
And women are just raised to be more social.
mhm,
It's okay for you to go to a girlfriend and cry and say, "Hey, I just broke up with my boyfriend," or whatever, or I just this happened at work and I'm upset. It's socially acceptable. It's
mhm.
it's just that's the way we're raised and we're built in a sense. Men
Yeah.
men don't have that.
Mhm,
Don't have that. If I'm sad, I me personally, I've learned how to deal with emotional issues a
mhm,
lot. I'm still learning, but just as a man, if I hadn't been through the experiences and education that I have, if
mhm.
I was sad about something happening, there's nobody I could turn to and cry on their shoulder. Nobody.
Yeah.
Not another
Yeah.
man, not a spouse, not a parent, because
Yeah.
we're just not raised and conditioned to do that and to be
Mhm.
that way. And it can be a scary learning curve,
Yeah.
because we don't want to be seen as weak,
Yep.
but you 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 can't hold anything inside
Yeah.
without it building up pressure and it coming out somewhere.
Yeah. They usually like lash out
Hmm.
or yep.
Yep.
So, what are some small but impactful daily practices you recommend?
For depression, we're talking about, and this would be kind of true for all of the mental illnesses we're talking about,
Mhm.
but exercise, journaling, sleep management, and diet.
Yep. Yep.
Tackle those things, put your life into them, find pieces of those, even if it's one thing
Mhm.
within those categories, find something and work on it.
Yeah. I even heard meditation works, but my brain goes
Hmm.
1,000 miles and I can only
I
meditate for a minute.
I know my ADHD is so hard with meditation, but I tell you honestly that since I learned that I had ADHD,
Mhm.
um, meditation has been the best friend.
Mhm.
I do it every single morning now, every
Really?
single morning, unless I'm like flying or, you know, staying somewhere or on a vacation or something. But yeah, on a regular day, every single morning, that's my routine. I get up, I make a cup of coffee, and I sit and I have my meditation. It
Yeah.
is it is amazing.
Yeah. So do you believe depression can be a teacher in some ways?
Yes. Um, as much as it sucks, it can be a teacher. There's one of my favorite poems has always been by Rumi, and it's called "The Guest House." Have you heard of that, or have you read it?
Nope.
All right, add that to your list.
Okay.
That's your homework after this session is to find Rumi, "The Guest House."
Okay.
Basically, he says that treat every emotion as a guest coming to your door. Invite them in, make them a cup of tea, get to know them. You
Mhm.
can learn something from them.
Okay, I like that. So, I wanted to speak a little bit about anxiety now.
Mhm.
So, what inspired you to address anxiety specifically in a standalone book?
Um, Probably just because it's so common.
Mhm.
Um, and whether we're talking about clinical anxiety, again, the term is generalized anxiety disorder, but
Mhm.
you know, more than just the normal range. Whether we're talking about that extreme or just normal anxiety that anyone can experience,
Mhm.
there's something that everyone can learn and apply to help that.
Mhm. Yes. So, how do grounding techniques help in the moment of the anxiety?
They help regulate the body's nervous system,
Mm.
which lowers your heart rate, your breathing, and your production of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline.
Okay, okay. I'm learning a lot because I'm on anxiety medication and I'm on heart medication at 37. Who's on that kind of
Mm,
medication at 37? That's
yep.
crazy.
Hmm.
So, so can you share an example of how you've seen someone transform through your strategies?
Yes. So I'm also a certified therapeutic journaling instructor. That's a lot
Oh.
to say, but basically taking certain methods and concepts and teaching people how to write in a way that helps them deal with past trauma
Mhm.
and help them to have growth and healing,
Mhm.
self-awareness. So I've seen people in a group session and in individual uh,
Mhm.
one-on-one coaching to be able to go from a point of they can't even talk about their trauma that they've experienced to after learning to write about it
Mhm.
and some practice time being able to now, okay,
Yeah.
now I can talk about this. I can talk about my feelings, my how it's affected my life and things
Mhm.
like that. It kind of it helps take that pressure off.
Mhm. Yeah, it does. It does a lot. Cuz I just started journaling and it does relax you when you're like get your thoughts out. It
Yep.
does.
Yep.
So, what do you say to people who feel anxiety is just a part of life?
They're right. Absolutely right.
That's good.
There's every single person on earth
Mhm.
experiences anxiety, but we call it nervousness.
Yep.
The 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 bodily sensation and the way your mind goes into hyperactivity
Mhm.
or can lock down is the same if you're just nervous about a normal circumstance
Mhm.
or if you have anxiety. The difference, much like depression, normal anxiety doesn't necessarily have to have a one-on-one identifiable trigger.
Yeah.
And I say that and I mean that if you have anxiety, you may have something in your past
Mhm.
that there's a trigger currently, but it's from a different source. It's the circumstances are not the same, but there's something that triggers your nervous system and says danger, danger,
Mhm.
and your body goes into a reaction. So yeah, everybody has nervousness, whether you're going to do public speaking,
Mhm.
whether you're going to get on an airplane, whether you're in a high place,
Mhm.
whether you're getting called into your boss's office for a serious conversation,
Yep.
whether you're about to get married. This is nervousness is kind of the result of stress, which is normal.
Yeah.
It's just that anxiety, when it gets to the anxiety level, it's those same reactions turned up to a 10
Mhm.
at times and places that don't fit necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are the biggest contributors to everyday anxiety in modern life?
Mental and emotional overload. We
Yeah.
are maxed out. I'm telling you, anxiety or treat, reports of anxiety have just blown up in the
Yeah.
past 20 to 30 years. I mean, like from, you know, 1 or 2% of the population up to 15 or 16% of the population are
Mhm.
being medically treated, which is a huge number and a
Yeah.
huge, increase. Um, I heard a guy talking the other day, and he was coming at it from an evolutionary perspective, but what he said made a lot of sense. He said, our brains, our system is made to be adaptive. We
Mhm.
can adapt to lots of things. Our whole existence is growing in age, and we learn to take on new roles and new circumstances. So we're made to adapt, but the rate of increase in technology and the effects of technology are astronomically higher than anything that our nervous systems and our brains could ever hope to keep up with.
Mhm.
It's not normal, even though I love it. Yes, I love TikTok. I love Instagram, but it's not normal. It's not what my body and brain are designed for, to be able to pull up a video of someone else suffering, someone
Mhm.
else in a war, someone else in a conflict
Mhm.
in another country around the world.
Mhm.
That's beyond the normal scope of what I'm I'm able to comprehend and deal with.
Yes.
So we're maxed out.
Yeah, I agree. So, how do you recommend balancing use with mental wellness?
Yeah, digital detox. Um, it's vital, especially if you have anxiety, PTSD. You have to learn to take breaks.
Mhm.
Um, it's funny because as psychology has grown as a science,
Mhm.
you know, it's only about 150 years old, which is
Yeah.
very short for, you know, an actual science.
Yeah.
You look at physics, you're talking physics, you can trace that all the way back to, like, pre Egypt and things.
Yeah.
But psychology, um, it's gone through a learning curve to where we are now back coming back to
Mhm.
the power of nature, the
Mhm.
power of natural resources
Mhm.
like exercise,
Mhm.
meditation, being in nature,
Mhm.
spending time with loved ones. So it's
Mhm.
kind of interesting. We've gone from this, here's the medical and therapeutic, the scientific approach to it, to now, oh, actually, all of these natural things help more long term than any other treatment.
Yes. Yes. So, why is building a support system essential to anxiety recovery?
Um, Basically, all mental illness, no matter what we're talking about,
Mhm.
causes problems with relationships
Yeah.
because you have a skewed view of yourself and you have a skewed view of the world around you.
Mhm.
So, being diligent and working on those relationships is going to give you stability. It's going to give you a sense of security, and it's going to help you grow and heal long term.
Yes, yes, I agree. So, managing adult ADHD. Why do you think adult ADHD is still misunderstood?
I think it's still misunderstood because it started as a identification of childhood disorders,
Hmm.
thus the H in ADHD.
Yeah.
You'll see, you'll see. scientists, psychologists, doctors, authors, whoever, talking about the distinction between ADHD versus ADD.
Mhm.
And that's an effort to try to separate those two between childhood and adulthood.
Mhm.
But it's started with that hyperactivity part,
Mhm.
which we don't usually see in the adult version.
Mhm.
So there's still some, there's still a lot of learning about the condition
Mhm.
and some of the similarities and some of the differences.
Yep, that's true. That's true. So, how does ADHD show up differently in adults versus children? I think you just
Yeah.
explained that.
So right. You don't have in adults, you generally, it's possible, you
Mhm.
generally don't have the hyperactivity,
Mhm.
because even if it's the exact same chemical process that's going on in your body,
Mhm.
in a child, it's going to come out more in activity
Ah.
because play is their activity.
Yep.
As we get into adulthood, study,
Mhm.
reading, work, those things, social interactions, those things are our activities. So
Mhm.
it kind of, there's that difference there. So for in the adult version, it's more of an issue of focus than
Mhm.
it is hyperactivity.
So, okay, so ADHD, I'm trying to get a better understanding. So, I have social no, that's different. That's social anxiety.
Hmm.
So, can ADHD like affect like how you have friendships, like how you talk to people? Like,
Absolutely.
okay.
1000%. 1000%. There's a very common, and this is, I say new because I didn't hear about it much, for many years, but recently I've heard a lot about it. So I think it's new in terms of getting public attention. And it's part of ADHD. And my brain just went, so here's an example of ADHD,
Yeah.
a real live, real time example of ADHD. Um, Rejection sensitivity.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's called RSD, rejection sensitivity disorder. I think there's some arguments whether it's a separate disorder. I don't think it is, but that's neither here nor there. But rejection sensitivity is absolutely a big part of ADHD for a lot of people.
Mhm.
Um, always keep this in mind also, Brooke, is that all mental illnesses are a spectrum.
Mhm.
You can have clinical depression and it might be the worst, it's the worst possible, or it
Mhm.
could be very mild, but you still have the same symptoms. Same with ADHD. You might have, like me, I'm very focused on order and cleanliness. I don't like disorder. A
Mhm.
lot of people with ADHD, they have the scatterbrain type of, you know, symptoms where they just put stuff everywhere and
Me.
leave it. Right. And
Me.
see, I'm the opposite of that. I'm like, no, 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 no. I can't stand that. Just my son, I love my son so much. And I'm so glad that he didn't, you know, take on some of my bad traits. But we used to have at it. We used to be at odds with the cleanliness stuff. I'd be like, I thought you cleaned your room. I did. I'm like, I wouldn't even sleep in that room. I cleaned it, you know. So, um, but with relationships, that rejection sensitivity is absolutely a trait, a symptom that's been tied to ADHD lately. So that a person that's close to you emotionally, so it can be parent, can be family, could
Mhm.
be a close friend, it could be a loved one, romantic loved one. They may say something to you that is neutral,
Mhm.
but you instantly perceive it as negative.
Yep. Yep.
So it's not just rejection as in you're asking me on a date. Ew, I wouldn't date you, if you're the last person on earth. It's
Mhm.
not just that kind of rejection. It's you feel that you're always being judged and criticized, even if it's a neutral statement. You know,
Yeah.
oh, I made this dinner. Do you like it? It may taste like crap. And the person be like, well, it's okay. And you're instantly like, not just offended, but hurt.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, I suck. You know, I, it's serious. And so it definitely plays into relationships.
Okay, okay. Yeah, my mom is gonna have to listen to this podcast, and she has to listen to this, so I'm gonna send it to her as soon as we get done. So, so what systems or tools do you personally use to stay organized?
Personally, I have learned to use sticky notes, calendars, and journals or notepads.
Mhm,
Those have become my favorite friend to keep me on track, because most people with ADHD are very good at seeing the pieces of a puzzle. It's
mhm,
just when you actually start doing it, it's distraction.
mhm,
Um, and so, for me, if I can write down the steps or the
mhm,
pieces needed at the beginning, I'm good to go. I just know to follow that.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. So, can ADHD be a strength, and if so, how?
Um, yeah, like I said, most people with ADHD have a very good knack for seeing the complete picture, seeing the
Mhm,
pieces of the puzzle. So they're typically very good at um, programming, coming up with programs or processes. Um, they're typically very creative,
mhm,
uh, typically also very empathetic. So,
mhm.
yeah, there's a lot of strengths for people with ADHD.
Oh, okay. So I'm learning a lot. Like I haven't got to this in my classes yet, so it's I'm learning a lot from a actual psychologist. You know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah, I
Good,
can't wait
good.
to get into
Okay, good,
it.
good.
So, what did you choose to write about PTSD in such an approachable way?
Um, just because more people struggle with it than they know.
Mhm.
There are lots of people that have gone through a trauma.
Mhm.
And, I used to work in the domestic violence and sexual assault field.
Mhm.
And we would have people come to us years after a sexual assault
Yep.
and say, this was 4 years ago, but I'm having these problems.
Mhm.
Yeah, because you've got PTSD.
Yeah.
They don't think of that a trauma or
Mhm.
even a series of traumas can cause long lasting effects. They may
Yeah.
think, oh, well, this is immediate. I had this happen or I experienced this. So, of course, it kind of makes sense that
Mhm.
there were some immediate, effects, but you don't realize how it changes your body and your mind.
Mhm.
So, years later.
Yeah.
So, I really wanted to help people understand the condition better and
Mhm.
understand that it's not just soldiers, that
Yeah.
it can happen to children,
Mhm.
it can happen to adults, teenagers, and you name it.
Yeah, cause my story is a little bit different. I was sexually assaulted when I was in my early 20s, and now that I'm 37, like it has went away. I'm not seeing visions of his face anymore when I sleep.
Hmm.
But my mom likes to bring up, "Hey, you're meeting guys online, and remember the guy that sexually assaulted you when you was in
Hmm.
your early 20s." I'm like, "Mom, why
Yeah,
would you bring that up?" Like,
yeah. She's trying to protect you.
yeah.
She just has to understand that doing it in that way is not helpful. To
Yeah.
her, it's helpful because, you know, and that's the thing. And I mentioned that these books in this series that I wrote are very beneficial to family members, to loved ones, because you don't understand it unless you're in it. And the more you can learn about it, the better you can understand it, the better you know how to help someone.
Right.
Sometimes there are many people that are very well meaning
Mhm.
and just don't know how to
Mhm.
help. So that's a learning curve.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, what's the first step towards reclaiming peace after trauma?
Dive into the healing process
Mhm.
quickly and often. Um, it's not going to be easy. It's going to hurt. Um, there's a story I read, and I actually looked this one up, and this is another trait of ADHD, but it's a good one. Um, you see something interesting, you immediately go look it up. You want to know everything about it. Um, I read that buffalo, or the American bison, the
Mhm.
American buffalo, which is a bison, that when a storm is coming, a big storm, that they actually run into it. Where most animals, including humans, hide from a storm, they try to find cover.
Mhm.
They run into it. And I
Yeah.
looked this up and it's true. They will get the herd together and go right into it because, one, they don't live in caves, they don't
Mhm.
live in shelters, so they don't have anywhere to run and hide. They're grazing animals, so they're constantly on the move.
Mhm.
The best way to get for that storm to pass is for
Mhm.
them to go through it. They're going through it directly, therefore it goes by quicker.
Mhm.
So they get
Yeah.
through it quicker because they're going to be hit anyways.
Yeah.
So just go through it.
Huh.
And it hurts. It takes time, but that is the best way, is just to start where you're at and just go forward. Even if it's one step, just go forward.
Yeah, yeah. So I wanted to talk about your professional insights and your advocacy. I did not pronounce that right.
Yeah, that's one of those tongue twisters. Yeah, advocacy.
So, how has your work in nonprofit and victim has shaped your perspectives?
One way is that, and I kind of already knew this, but I definitely have seen the truth of it,
Mhm.
is that trauma can happen to anyone,
Mhm.
regardless of race, age, gender, economics, um, and that we absolutely need to keep working on reducing stigma and um, providing methods, real methods for individual and systemic change.
Mhm. Yes. Yes. What challenges have you faced it while working in psychology?
In just general psychology
Oh, forensic.
or forensic, yeah, I was going to say, might be two different answers, but, and this is going to be my probably unpopular opinion. This is going to be my unpopular opinion. And I say this because I've experienced it. Um, Forensic psychology is most difficult because
Mhm.
it's about a system in place
Mhm.
that causes more harm than it does help. And the issues that it proposes to address, most of the time, it's making them worse.
Mhm.
And it's very difficult because it's not like this is a big secret.
Yeah.
The leadership in the criminal justice system sees this stuff all day, every day,
Mhm.
and they are absolutely opposed, not just ignorant, but opposed to honest discussions about the issues and what needs to be done and necessary change. And I'll just give one statistic to highlight that. And I find this is a very important issue. So I don't say this lightly. This is not a criticism of those that are actually trying to make a difference.
Mhm.
This is a criticism of the system as a whole and what
Mhm.
we see from it. The statistic is this: the number one killer of police officers every single year
Mhm.
is not criminals, not even close. It's suicide.
Really?
Suicide is the leading cause of death of law enforcement officers. But yet, when you hear leadership talk about it on the news and even to their own officers, to their own staff that they're leading. Oh, officer safety. These people out here with guns are just looking for every chance they can get to shoot you. Every driver, every civilian, every pedestrian, they're a possible killer, but they're not getting up there on the news, and they're not getting up there in front of their staff saying, look, suicide is the number one killer, and
Mhm.
we absolutely have to do better with mental health issues among law enforcement. There are families being left behind to
Mhm.
grieve their husband, their wife, their father, whoever, because of an issue that we're not even willing to talk about, and we're not willing to make the changes necessary to prevent it.
Yeah. I did not know that at all.
Yeah,
At all.
yeah,
Yeah, they do not talk about that at all.
no, they don't.
Oh,
There's
man.
there's a few organizations, but there's one that's really, really good. It's a national organization that helps try to bring more education about prevention and treatment for mental health among law enforcement officers, and they raise money and try to help families and things like that. And that's awesome. Awesome.
Yes.
I read all their stuff.
What is it called again?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
Oh, man.
I knew you were going to ask me that.
And it
And
just went away.
it just went away. I was going to say the sad thing about it is this organization is a independent nonprofit. It's not the
Wow.
police union. It's not law enforcement agencies. It's not the government. It's not the state. It's not the city. It's a separate nonprofit organization that has to raise their own money, has to do their own education, and they have to pick up the pieces and try to help these families when their loved one commits suicide.
Man, I'm gonna
It's
find out what it is. I'm gonna
I
find out what
I will email you because I'll think of it as soon as we end this
it
broadcast.
is. So,
Welcome to ADHD.
so my last and final question. I know we went over the
Sure.
time. I still had
No,
a
that's
lot
fine.
of questions left, but we just got talking. So I'm gonna ask you this one final question, then I'll let you go.
Sure.
What is the one message you wish everyone struggling could hear right now?
Oh, yes. This is a great question. There is a German parable that says, don't chase butterflies because they will only fly away. Spend your time and effort building a beautiful garden. If you build a beautiful garden, the butterflies will come. But even if they don't, now you have a big, beautiful garden. Spend your time on yourself.
Mhm.
Spend your time on self awareness, on healing. Become a student of yourself. The more you spend on yourself, the more time and effort and healing and growth that you do on yourself, these other external issues that you may have problems with, or that your issue, your mental health, whatever is interfering with,
Mhm.
those things will come naturally. And
Yes.
even if they don't, even if there's some things that maybe you thought you wanted and turns out you didn't really want or didn't really need, whatever, even if they don't, even if they go away, guess what? Now you have this resilience and the core within yourself to live a growth filled, happier, healthier life.
Mhm. Yes, that's really great advice, Jamie. I want to thank you so, so much for being a guest today on my podcast and chatting with me.
Thank you. My privilege.
You have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye. Hey everyone, I want to thank you all so, so much for listening to my interview with Jamie. Such really, really great advice. I pray that you all take his advice. Like, this was the best interview, in my opinion, of this season, like the best interview I've had. So I hope you all check out the interview and check out his books because I know I will, and I'm definitely giving them to my mom. So yeah, definitely check them out. Thank you all so, so much for listening to this podcast interview, and I hope y'all have a great day and see you next time. Bye.